Welcome. It's so glad to have you. Yeah, I feel like I like the topic that we're talking about because I like personal branding and I absolutely hate it. But before we get into everyone, we have Tammy. I hope I pronounced it well. Tammy is, I would say, how I know Tammy or how I've heard of Tammy. And so Tammy is that person that inspires you to do better on your
Ah,
personal brand on LinkedIn, and in such a very funny way. I've seen her put content on LinkedIn about the work she does and building that. And I think for me, part of the things that inspires me it's the journey. I'm not big on destinations as a person, and part of the reason why we started this platform, not to be cliche, is I didn't like when you call like speaking and someone like Tenuelu Melu. Kudos to him, amazing man. But I'm like, guy, you took like 30 years to get to where you are. I have no clue what I'm able to do with this career yet. And so it always felt like very disjointed when we have those conversations. So
yeah.
I typically wanted to be able to bring people that we could connect with their journey necessarily. And it's not a finished product per se, it's more of like a work in progress. And I think that's what I enjoy or inspire me the most from your conversations that you put out on LinkedIn. It's the fact that it's real. It's not, hey guys, this is how to do stuff. It cringes me a lot, but um, that's what I like, and so That's why I thought to reach out to you, and I'm so grateful that you accepted, and we're gonna have this conversation together. So, hey guys, this is Tammy. I don't know if you want to say anything before we jump into it.
um, yeah, I can do all the deeper intros later on, but hello, my name is Tamila Oladipo. I am based in Lagos, Nigeria, and yeah, we can just get into it. I will be talking about personal branding, yes, but the less cringe side, hopefully. The side that makes it feel less embarrassing to do online, which is something I've definitely struggled with in the past. So, yeah,
Okay.
excited to chat with everyone.
Okay, so you can go into your presentation.
Okay, um, let's do the awkward dance of can I share my screen? Can everyone see my screen?
Yeah, you should be able to hear the screen. Don't worry.
Sharing. Okay, so let's see. Okay, am I
Yes, I can see the screen.
up properly?
Yeah, you just have to close out the
Oh yeah.
audience window. Tab. That's
Um,
okay.
I wonder why that's happening. Okay.
Yep, we can.
Good. Okay. Awesome. All right. So again, hello. My name is Tamla Oladipo, and I will be speaking about putting the personal back in personal branding today. Uh, First, a bit about who I am. I'm currently working as a content writer at a social media management software company called Buffer, which is a mouthful. And I'm focused on writing about social media platforms, ideas and strategies for growing a creative or business account on any social media platform. And I'm based in Lagos, Nigeria. I work remotely for Buffer. Uh, some other things, I write a personal branding and remote work newsletter, and I have, I guess, I put this not to brag, but to kind of share what makes me qualified to talk about this topic. I have grown an audience of over 14,000 followers on LinkedIn, which I have been told is not a small feat. So,
It is not a small feat. See, I'm I because like I mentioned, I work in advertising, so part of my day to day is to see how much we pay influencers. I'll be glad to come back to you one day because I'm just like, how are we spending 1 million for 5 influencers? I don't understand. Anyways, keep going.
I guess it's, I guess it's. I've been on the brand side, the agency side,
Yeah.
marketing and advertising. I was there for a while. That was where I started my career. so to
Yeah.
speak, and it was not fun. So I fully understand. But yeah, that is a bit about who I am, and we can just dive right into everything that I will be discussing today. So this is this is the main. Sorry about that. This is the main problem that many people have with personal branding. It feels very cringe.
Yeah.
Um, and there's a reason for that. And I've been thinking about this a lot more deeply recently, about why presenting yourself in a way that the most successful people have to do it. Like PR firms exist for a reason. All these TV shows that have on guests, having a stylist, and having that be a core part of how you present yourself to the world. These are all things that are personal branding. These people didn't get wealthy off of keeping to themselves in their houses and not sharing anything about their work or their lives. That stuff worked for them. But why is it that the average person who is, you're not even trying to be a celebrity, you're just trying to build a career, get a job? Why does it feel so different and weird for you? Well, this is the conclude or like the hypothesis, yes, that I've come to. So my hypothesis is that we are taught to present our lives through the highlights. So your wedding photos on Instagram, you're not presenting every single. So sorry, I have to take this call.
No
um
problem.
yeah, just a second. All right. um I'm sorry about that.
Okay.
One of Today is one of those days. Okay, so where was I? Yes, the highlight reels of our lives.
Yeah.
Um, so we present ourselves to the world through the big moments, through
Mhm.
our accomplishments, or even through our failures.
Yeah.
Your CV is a your track record of everything that is great about you and the work that you've done and the places that you've been
Yeah.
and the places that you've worked at. You're so focused on presenting the best version of you and then this best version is always so limited. So everyone feels like it has to be really big things, the big companies, the amazing roles, the big wins, and forget that that is not real life. That's not everything that's personal to you. That's not everything that makes you who you are. These are not all the experiences that actually make up how you got to where you are. And that's why it feels weird because it feels dishonest. It can feel dishonest if you're making a LinkedIn post every 7 months and it's all I did this and I did this and I did this, and there's no space there's no time in between where you're being vulnerable or sharing anything that has nothing to do with your
Yeah.
big achievements. Um, so that leads us to the question of what makes a good personal brand? What makes a personal brand that doesn't feel cringe? Which I'm using that word way too much. But what does make a personal brand that doesn't feel cringe? I think the best, most comfortable personal brands feel authentic. So they prioritize people with good personal brands prioritize sharing real experiences. Um, they feel human, so they highlight the small moments, um, day-to-day conversations with people, things that are happening in your life that may not feel like the most important thing, but they were important to you. And then they show the growth, um, of themselves as like a journey, an ongoing process, not a finished product. So yeah, I think those are the elements that really make up a good personal brand. And then we come to where the disconnect is for most people. So what is the main problem that you and me and most people are facing when they are trying to share these stories, whether they've come to this conclusion themselves, they know that they want to be sharing more than just the big moments, or they want to be sharing
Yeah.
pretty consistently. They're focusing mostly on major milestones. They're focusing on linear storytelling. So it's this thing happened today, and then the next time it's this thing happened today, and there's no connection to future goals. You haven't shared how you got to where you got to, or you don't feel like you can, or you don't feel like you should. But real
Yeah.
connection with people, which is what makes up a good personal brand, comes from small everyday moments. Those are things that make us human. Those are things that help people relate to us. Um, and I had a couple of pop culture references in here um, of how linear storytelling. So the idea here is to show that linear storytelling doesn't even work in books. So not there are barely any characters that you find who don't have like in between small moments that help us connect even more deeply to them. So it's not just
Yeah.
about you as a person focused on showing the big moments. Book characters also, writers also fall for that trap where you don't really connect to stories where it's all big things happening. It's all this big thing happened, and then this big thing happened, and then this big thing happened. Sure, those are the moments that people are most likely to pick up on when they're giving a summary. So for Gojo Satoru, the character from an anime called Jujutsu Kaisen, he is always called the strongest by every other character, and all his fights are the most epic fights, and all his powers are the most epic powers. But people don't like Gojo just because of his powers. They like him because they can connect with him as a person, as a teacher. They love how he relates to people, the things that are very annoying, the things that make him feel like really human. So it's not just his power that makes him iconic. It's the quirkiness, it's the human moments, it's the times of vulnerability within the story. Same with Katniss Everdeen from the Hunger Games. The first thing that most people likely remember about the Hunger Games is her shouting that she's going to take over for her sister. And that's the first thing that comes to mind for many people.
Yeah.
And volunteer as tribute is so popular as a phrase. And yes, that's an important part of her story. But the reason
Yeah.
she's become an iconic pop culture character is because her bravery puts her at the center of the story, but it's everything that happened after that made her, that cemented her as an iconic character, as a main character, as someone who was compassionate and vulnerable and made mistakes, who struggled with grief, who struggled with trauma. Those are things that really made people connect with her. Those are things that when it's been another 50 years, people are going to study these characters and say, oh, yeah, uh, this and this and this is what made them so amazing, and not just the big, splashy volunteering as tribute moments. So all this to say, linear stories miss the magic of the small moments very often, and you're likely also falling into that trap of telling a linear story about yourself, showing people only the this and this and this moments instead of having it be a very well-rounded past, present, future situation. So how do you fix this practically for whatever it is that you want to do for a personal brand, whether that's applying to schools or applying for jobs or growing a brand on LinkedIn? um, I posit layered storytelling. And I'll go into what layered storytelling is a bit, but I think the reason it works is because it helps people build trust with whoever it is that they're speaking to. That's why whenever you're asked to write a personal statement, for an application to your undergrad or master's program, they'll ask you like, why do you want to do this? Like, tell us who you are, tell us the
Yeah.
story. Like, we can see the accomplishments, we can see the achievements. Use this portion to tell us who you are. And likely you think back to the past and say, this is how I grew up. And these are the things that made me want to pursue this degree. And then these are the things that I plan to do while I'm there. And these are things that I plan to do after.
Yeah.
That's an example of layered storytelling. But instead of having it be just that one thing in one personal statement or one job application cover letter, I say bring it into how you tell your stories about yourself, bring it into your personal brand
Yeah.
on social media. So that will help build trust with your audience. They get to know who you are, what motivates you. It shows depth, shows that you're more than just someone who does things and there's more to you. You're a human being. And then it also drives engagement. People love a good story,
Yeah.
shown by Hollywood, to be honest. That's the example that you need. And then YouTube, where people will have 90-minute podcasts with 1 million views. So
Yeah.
people love stories. Stories drive engagement. And if you can figure out a system for yourself that is sustainable, I think that's how you can take back control of your personal brand, make it feel less embarrassing for you.
Yeah.
So where can you find these stories? Where are the ideas going to come from? Because it's one thing to say do this, and it's another thing to actually know how to practically go about doing it. Okay, so first is looking at the past, and not just looking at the past and saying, I was born in Detroit and I went to school and that's just a list of bullet points. There's no connection if you're just talking about the past outside of who you are in the present, who this person is that's trying to grow a personal brand. So look at the past and ask questions like, what's a defining moment in my career, in my life, in my schooling? What's an experience that taught a lesson that you still apply today? Um, I like to do this thing where I look at past feedback that I've gotten and how I've grown from that feedback.
Yeah.
Not always sharing because sometimes feedback can be a very personal experience. But using it once you've gotten out of the problem that's your feedback,
That's a feedback.
then telling people, oh yeah, I figured this out. And sure, you can frame it as a very easy process. You can also be completely vulnerable and tell the full story of how you were on the verge of being fired.
Yeah.
You,
I prefer those type of stories more personally because I feel like everyone wears a cape nowadays. Like everyone is in, like we're all figuring this out. Like
yeah, like you
actually,
made mistakes at some points.
yeah. So I prefer stories that because I'm like a lot of times we are I get the concept of fake it till you make it, but I think we are faking it a lot and we're not making it as much.
Yes.
Uh, and that's because a lot of people have lied so much and not lie like a lot of people have faked it so much that they're not able to
And they've
true
like,
to themselves to say, guy, you're not really that good in this thing that you are doing. You need to improve. You've
you need
you've
to
come, I've done 12. I'm like, you didn't do amazing. And I like the story also because and maybe more of a personal thing. For me, I see that all in all, our lives should be seeds in the concept of someone else would need that story of you figuring it out at some point, and it would help them to know that they're not running mad.
Mhm.
Have helped. I
Yeah.
appreciate a few of my friends recently, like we got married towards the same time. The thing that has kept us sane because we're guys, like and we had like this routine of just checking in regularly before we got married, and having that kept us sane. We just randomly be just like, Well, my wife do this now. Say, only you are. Thank God I'm not running mad. And
Um,
you just feel okay that yes, I'm not
it's not
insane.
just me.
It's not just me. So
Yeah,
sorry, I have that spirit.
yeah, no worries. I fully understand. The past is, I think it's really difficult, especially if when you look on the past with regrets. But I always think there are opportunities, there are moments that led you to, and you can always
Yeah,
make connections. Like you'll say, oh, this happening in school was the reason I made this decision and is the
exactly.
reason I'm here today. And
I
like,
think the fact that people are very nosy. So there's also that.
there's
So I
that.
wrote this is more personal. So I wrote something about money in Medium. So I prefer to write than talk because I just enjoy that. So I wrote something about money. And when I was thinking of the article, I wanted to go all the way, like, oh my God, I've made this, I've made that, like, yeah, and but then how horrible I was with money growing up. I used to take money from my mom's purse. I
Oh my
used to spend school fees, like, and all of those things down, like
yeah.
kind of painting a journey of how bad it is and what I've done and how I'm adjusting. And someone read it, and my mom read it, and she was like, "Are you okay? Is everything all right?" I'm good. Like that's how I write. Like I don't. I try not to write. You know, I try not to write superficial.
Mhm.
I try to paint a journey, a
Yeah.
story when I write. And the point is, I can see as why people as well might feel like I don't want to go this direction because you put this in my family, you say, is he okay? What's wrong? Those kind of people just want to paint a nice
Or
picture.
like
But
people
yeah,
will believe that you shouldn't share. I think it might also be a cultural thing. At least for Nigerians, there's this embarrassment should not be public. There's that carries over into even like it's something that you really have to fight to
yeah,
stop doing because I mean think about some of the most iconic media outfits. It's from people who just were willing to be embarrassed,
yeah,
willing to say, "Oh yeah, this didn't work out. It's the first one to 50 times I tried it." Those are the stories that we keep going back to. This person failed and then they tried again. But like today, if you were to tell somebody that hmm, in the past, like this is something that happened to guy, this is something that happened. Like even your friends will tell you, don't tell people that. It's like keep quiet. This is just
that's it.
something
So it'll be
shared.
like, yeah, you keep that to yourself.
You should definitely keep that to yourself. But yeah, I think there is balance for sure. It's not everything. It's not all.
Yeah,
It's not all learning
right.
experiences that should be shared. I don't think so
Yeah,
personally. Because if I was sharing all my learning experiences, eh, I
yeah,
wouldn't
I
have
get.
the same, perception. People wouldn't perceive me the same way that they
Yeah,
do.
but I think it's also the concept of being true to thyself, which is not saying that you should share everything, but you know that when you're not sharing, it's not because you're trying to fake. It's just like this is not for you to know.
Yeah.
It's for me to keep as well.
Mhm.
Because you meet people, I've met people, oh crap. Because you meet people that even like influencers, celebrities, you meet them and you're like, wow, this is everything. And I'm like,
They're
and
just a person.
yeah, I'm like,
Yeah.
I can't connect the dots from your social page to
I
you.
think what, especially with creators, especially working in social media, I've had to really like before working in social media, I didn't have any like relationships with people who had massive followings. And then you start speaking to these people and you're like, the only difference between you and me is your consistency. That's
Yep.
the only difference. Not knowledge, it's not experience, it's that they chose to pick up a platform and say, I'm going to do XYZ, and they did
Mm,
it. That's the only
yeah.
difference between us. Which I mean, that's a great thing. That's something to learn from for sure. But for a lot of people, it's not expertise that makes
It's not,
them great or like
yeah,
well good. They're just good at telling
telling good stories.
their stories.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's what it comes down to. they're good at getting people invested in their work
Mhm.
or their lives.
Yeah. And the slippery slope side to it, and we'll get back into the slides. It's I think when I think of personal branding, so a lot of times, I'll give an example. Let's assume I'm amazing at designing slides, for example. Let's assume I get invited to speak regularly on slide arrangement, telling a complete story, intro presentation, and then someone comes to meet me and says, Nifemi, do you know the insight towards where Nigeria is going? And because I'm popular, I feel like I should open my mouth to say something. And I'm
Yeah.
like, no, I don't know. I have no clue where Nigeria is going. I don't know the data. The only thing I really know is putting
And then
slides
people
together.
share opinions that aren't well thought out.
Yeah, and
And
I'm like, no, it's not a
Mhm.
bad thing to say I'm not well
I don't,
versed.
yeah,
It,
but that's not my
it's,
area.
that's not my area. I please, there's somebody else that knows a lot about the Nigerian
Give
economy.
them a list of the people who actually have done the work and studied. Please don't involve me in this. There are some conversations that I just personally I would prefer not to be a part of. Political is a huge one of
Yeah.
them because I feel like politics is so divisive, and it's not something that I've studied well enough to say I can take a hard stance on anything. I'm not the type of
Yeah.
person to take a hard political stance because I always feel like there's opportunity to learn. There are people who
Mhm.
have studied, who went to school for that, so go and meet them. I'm not the
Yeah,
one. If
I've met
anybody
them.
asks me, I can never do any government related work. I can never because everything is personal bias, not from a lens of like
Yep.
education
Yep.
or the right choice. Everything for me is like politically is personal bias. I will tell you but like that's
I,
my
I,
own.
I tell you why I think is gonna favor me.
So
No, and
exactly, and that's
yeah.
how you should take a lot of influencers who don't have like that, who that isn't their main niche. Even the ones who have it as their, to be honest, even the ones who have it as their main niche.
It's like that. And I think the part that you mentioned on vulnerability is also, and maybe it's the world or the society that we live in that has punished, and I'm assuming, I don't know, maybe the society has punished vulnerability so much that people feel like there's no need. Because,
Yeah.
and typically, even in career, I'm in meetings and someone asks me, Nifemi, do you really know anything about this? And I genuinely always tell myself that don't feel the pressure to say you know when you don't. It's like, I mean,
Yeah.
like the worst that can happen is like they say you're not good at your job and they
Yep.
find something, but I'm not going to pretend. And so I'm always very keen to say, I have no idea what you guys are talking about. Can you please bring me in? Because I read something and that was what shaped my thinking. It says you always have to look for opportunities to grow. Because if you posture like you know everything, you will always miss opportunities to grow. And for me, that has to be there in being personal branding. It's like, oh, I didn't know this was an information I could use. I didn't know that this is it. And you can laugh. You can say, oh, like, but I've grown. Because now I have new information that's taking me away from point A to point B. But if I try to have a facade around it and say, don't worry, I just do a quick Google, you might miss vital information that the person will share,
Yep.
and then you'd come
Mental education and context, to
and
be honest,
context. And you
because
just be, and you,
people don't research anymore. They don't read. They form opinions based on what other people are telling them. And like all those other people have biases as well. Like there's a
exactly.
reason they're framing it, and there's a reason they picked up their camera and made a video, or picked up their phone and like typed out whatever it is that they're sharing. Some people don't think through what they're saying, but
Nope.
because they have a huge following, they're like, because this person said it must be true. I'm like, no,
Absolutely.
no, that is not
Absolutely.
how this works.
Yeah, and I think that I always, and maybe we'll go back to the slides, but I always take this principle. It's from the Bible, um, and it says that those who are teachers are judged more than than so, because you
Protect
get
yourself.
you get the opportunity to influence people as a teacher. It says
Yeah,
those who are pastors, teachers are
true.
just more than regular people. I can't
Mm.
remember exactly the verse, and I take it to the same thing as influencers. Like honestly, you are judged more because
Yep.
The least you can do is to do your research
Or
and
say,
say,
I don't
I don't know, because you
I'm
have
not willing to do the research. Keep quiet.
you have 6.5 million people that you're about to yarn something with, and then you will now go and just open like this is
Yep.
what I'm. There are ignorant people there. There are people that don't even, this is their first access to the internet, that they're still trying to figure out the ropes of how
But
this
like
works.
some of them are just children who don't
Yeah,
have a grasp on reality in any
yes,
way.
you don't dump it with your own opinion, and particularly on sensitive issues, and you just go and you're like, you're
This
just
like
go.
attitude to kids or people who are just learning that I don't like that society is growing where I think it's because the internet is seen as this repository of information and AI makes it even worse, makes this situation I'm about to talk about even worse. People see people who don't know stuff as like there's this inherent bias towards them that if you say you don't know, then you must be. Where before, I feel like we were given grace,
Yeah,
or like if you say you don't know, then someone will try to explain it to you. Or maybe it's just that people don't feel like they can say that they don't know something. But like to children, this is a 15, 16-year-old who you're conversing with. You finish school, you're 5 years out of university, and you're talking to them like you people have the same level of life experience, and then you say, "Oh no, they can't solve this one." No, no, no. The mature one or the older one in the situation has more life experience. I feel
yeah,
like that should be more than enough to say, "Okay, I'm going to pull back, or I'm going to try to come from a place of let me educate this person because they might
yeah.
actually not know and not
Mhm.
ridicule them the first." But like ridicule is the first thing that people jump
Oh
to.
yeah,
Sarcasm,
yeah,
ridicule,
I
and I
agree.
really sometimes my first instinct is to say, "Oh my god, oh, you don't know that," but like you don't know what someone's education,
Yeah,
how they learned, or they might be the same age as you and they just don't have the same exposure, life experiences. I always have to give people grace, but people are not willing to do that anymore, and
I
I
know.
get it. I guess I see where some people are coming from, but
I,
it's
I
not
don't know.
great.
I see, but I get it. But I'm just like,
It's it's not great. Or
great.
like just again keep quiet. You don't have to respond to everything. Not
Yeah,
everything requires a response.
not everything. You have to have your own opinion, and if you do, keep the opinion to yourselves. Like
Yeah.
part of the things that has helped me sometimes, because I can be very opinionated about situations, and sometimes like when I was very active on Twitter, I want to share. I'm like, why? What's pursuing you? Like genuinely speaking, like I wouldn't pass out if I don't share that opinion. Nothing will change. I can keep it to myself and let it know whether it's strong or not and let it go. And I even prefer sharing opinions within a smaller group now, like people that
Yes.
they know me. So friends, we can sit down and say, guys, I'm thinking about this situation like this. So they know that I'm not crazy, that I'm not saying this from a place of
But like it's not
idiocy.
coming from a place
Exactly.
of like bad intent. Like they might
Exactly.
say something and they know that you don't know, but
Exactly.
so they're like, okay, no,
So
don't
that
say,
thing,
don't do
no,
that.
yeah. Anyways,
Yeah.
you can go to the slides.
Yeah. Anyway, so the past is a great place to draw from, but also always remembering to connect it to the present. So yeah, that's the everything at the top in the quotes is examples. So
Yeah.
this is just an example of how you could start a post, or like if someone is asking you an interview question, like you can use this for many different scenarios. This is not a hard guideline, it's just an example. So this is in my first job, I struggled to give constructive feedback. It told me that clear communication is key to leadership, which is why I now do XYZ, or which is why I'm doing XYZ. So always remembering to bring it to who you are in the
Yeah.
moment. Then the present also always has stories. What's something that you're trying out that's working for you? What's a tool? This is the method that most people are following. But there's no connection to the past, and there's no talk about what's going to happen in the future. And you can get really burned out if you're always looking for moments in the present to talk about. Or sometimes you just don't feel ready to share something that you're currently working on, which is where you can go to. I'm working on this for this is the future plan, or this is what I did in the past. That's where those other spots can come in for inspiration. So, sharing something that you're learning or experimenting with, this can apply across. At some point, I had a slide in here. Like I was thinking about breaking down who this advice is for and who it isn't for. But I don't think there's anyone who can't build a personal brand off of this advice. I don't think there's like, even if your whole thing online is sharing like how to do something, there are always ways to make it more personal to you and create that connection with people who are engaging with your work or who you are as a person. So the present is also another place to draw inspiration from, and then the future. So, what's a big goal that you're working toward? What are five small goals that you had at that you have for this coming week? So, it's everything that you're planning towards. I want to travel to. I'm saying this like from my perspective now. I want to travel to 5 countries next year. Right now, I'm doing XYZ to work towards that, or
Yeah.
um, I am planning to speak to the modeling inspires community on Thursday. This is what I'm doing to prepare. That would have been a great post. But anyway, that is the future is another place to draw inspiration
Yeah.
from. Something's coming. So eventually you'll reach a point where you have to then follow up, which is another opportunity to share if
Yeah.
you failed or succeeded in this goal. It's also a chance for people to go back. Maybe if this is the first time they're interacting with you, go back and say, oh yeah, I can see how this everything that you did led up to this point
That's
for you. Then the everyday, so everyday interactions that you have can also be sources of stories and inspiration. This is the most common LinkedIn posts that you see.
and the most
Um, my
one.
my daughter told me that my daughter told me this amazing business idea, and it had me thinking about project management or whatever. Those really weird random posts that people make. So conversations you're having, real or not, observations you're making, trends that you're spotting, ideas as well that people are sharing with you. Those are all good opportunities to share a story. And finally, your audience is a and this one becomes a feedback loop because once you start sharing and building up those connections and building up an audience, people start asking you questions or contributing to your thoughts or sharing opposing opinions, and these are all opportunities to take and turn into something that ties to you, how you think, how you operate. Um, Also, feedback and engagement, amazing opportunities to share. You, I've made posts about like my impressions blowing up before. People care about that sort of. People care about those random things. Or people are interested in those random things. You never know, so it's just up to you to
When
keep sharing.
impressions are not random, it leads you to say you can make more money. So
Oh
people get
well, yeah, yes. For some, in some cases, hopefully that money will start coming in soon for
it
me.
will. Are you
Hopefully.
solely focused on LinkedIn?
So I have my newsletter as well, which
Yeah.
I monetize somehow here and there, and then I want to build it on a proper video platform somehow. I don't think Instagram is the place. Instagram to me still feels like so it's probably TikTok. Instagram still feels like a place where like me and my friends are
Mm.
engaging with each other. Like the Instagram influencer grift is not my
Yeah.
choice, not my place of choice. Yeah. And this is the final takeaway. So something to try. pick one or several of the techniques, and share a post using specifically a format that's different for you. So something that you don't do very often, or something that you haven't done in a while, and just see what happens. Again, doing that because it grabs attention. Like people are like, "Oh, I've never seen this from this person before. Let me check
Yeah.
it out." It's likely to spur engagement. Yeah, that is everything.
Thank
From
you very much.
yeah.
Thank you. So I have a maybe just one question. It's more so it's more personal. I I I typically play around the idea of personal brand, but my perception towards personal brand is because I do a lot of things and don't want to be known for one thing. So I also want to have the opportunity to say tomorrow I want to go and start shoemaking business, and nobody will question whether I have capacity to do it or not.
Mm,
Because I listened to an interview sometimes ago, which sort of reemphasizes my point is if you look at skit makers or people that do skits on Instagram, part of what people struggle with is or from an audience perspective is if you see them in a movie, you're like, they're not really
there-
great. Yeah, part of why CB Solar, for example, now people know as skit maker or something, but when she's doing this family food, people are like, you're not really a good host. And
mm,
so the audience has been trained to see you in a particular
in the
way.
context,
And
yeah.
then when you're trying to pivot, the audience is like, and that's because I'm also looking at the same audiences, but that's technology for another day. But
Mm,
I like to build brands to have their own life.
mhm.
And but people always say, "Okay, you need to have a partner." I'm like, no, I don't
Mm.
want to be known for any
Just
of
one,
this.
yeah.
I just like my genuine desire. And the first, in all honesty, the first intention is I want to be able to build them and exit and make money and not be on the boat somewhere living la vida. But beyond that is also like I want to enjoy the freedom of notoriety, of not being known for something. But then I get the concept of, I mean, for some time, for some of the brands, so I have like a faith platform, I have Motley Inspires, I have a ad agency, I have a fashion brand. Some of them, I do some sort of videos for them. And I've noticed that whenever I talk about them on those whatever pages they have, people feel more connected to them. People like the post, and I'm like, I don't intend to come and talk about this thing every day. It's like I want it, and but then I like the idea of being a builder as a person. Like
Mm,
I don't want to be known for that. It's a very tricky question. I want to
mm,
have the lead play. And there are a
yeah.
couple of people that I know I want to just have that opportunity to say, today I'm thinking of rebuilding this water bottle, and I go into my laptop and I'm designing and I'm carrying a 3D printer and I'm testing it out. And I'm
Yeah.
okay. I just design out and I go out. I don't even check, just put it on LinkedIn and I move on. I don't even come and say, watch me build this thing. And from it to step. But people always say that I spoke to Salem sometimes ago, and
Mm.
Salem gives of the opinion that he says that I want to go that if I decide to monetize my personal brand, I will make money. I don't believe that. I mean, I believe it, but I also don't want to
You'd
do
be so
that
confused.
in the in the
Honestly,
sense whereby I
you'd be
sorry.
surprised at what you'd honestly you'd be surprised. I think there's already you already identified the way that you can stop from being shoehorned into just one type of thing, the idea of niching down and then niching down into the niche that you picked is great, but like I feel like that's a business brand thing. People are
Yeah,
so dynamic, and like you said, you called yourself a builder. You like to build things, and then you specifically identified that you've built a lot of like companies and brands. That's the story. Why do you like doing that? What types of things draw your eye? Where do you get inspiration from for these things? So it's like all the things that you already know anyway, like you already know where you get inspiration from. So it's just sharing, this is what led to me making this choice. Or why did you do it? This is what happened before that's made me do this thing now. And in that way, you don't have to be like just a person known for as an ad agency owner, or as the founder of Monthly Inspires, like you can expand beyond, like those are just things that you started. They're independent of you. They're like things, they exist, you work on them. Like they're not everything that you do in your life. So then you can come in with like the things that you might have felt a bit random if you didn't have already have that, like if you hadn't built the habit of saying, oh yeah, I already share that it was growing up in XYZ states that led me to start this brand, or going to this school, or meeting this person, or this experience led to this, or this is why I'm taking this step. It already feels natural because you don't have to worry about
Yeah.
people thinking of you as just the owner of, or just the founder of. It's something that I worry about a lot personally as well. But I don't want to be just known as the girl that works remotely, or like one that writes about social media on the Buffer blog. That's already happening. Like people, and that's good. But like, I'm multidimensional, and I do
So
show
you
that things
take
I should.
the small wins of me saying that at least I know that you are building your workspace.
Yes. Okay. True. 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 Yeah, I have
So
this to do.
exactly. So you see that it's not all because like I mean, and it's more like natural feedback because we haven't met before. It's not like as if I've met you somewhere and
Yeah.
you so it's coming off. It's just maybe now thinking about how you want to um show more of the part. Maybe I don't know, maybe just so I think for me, my next question will be formats. Because one thing
Mhm,
about faster branding, formats are a very major part of it. Video is one.
mhm,
But the newsletters, there's podcasts, there's a couple of things
mhm,
um, that someone can do. And part of why I struggle, so like my LinkedIn is mostly just I'm doing something, I remember I'm doing something, I can't put that. I don't, or I write something, I share.
yeah,
I don't
there's just
think,
energy to it.
yeah, I don't put any energy into it to think about it. And that's because I always try to be the consistent person. So I try not to start something that I know that I haven't figured out a way for me to be consistent
Mm,
in that direction. Not I don't think I want to do. It's just that if I start with video now, can I be consistent with video?
mm,
And so a genuine question for me would be how do you think about formats when you were thinking of building your own personal brand?
mm. So something that has inevitably become a part of my, or like how I approach everything, is experimentation. Just because I've had to do a lot of experimentation to find like what I like, what I'm good at recently. So like with Buffer, it was, I started out writing long form blog articles. Like that's what I was hired to do. But then other opportunities to grow came up, and it meant that at least for social media, I had to try out different formats. So like I naturally just started trying new things. Like it wasn't anything, it wasn't like a thought out strategy. I was just like, oh, why not do it this way? So like instead of writing a text post about this thing, which is my natural state, I would do 30 days of LinkedIn carousels. Like that was how I started thinking about things. And because I was doing that on my personal account, it came off in my personal brand. Thankfully, it's something that I enjoy having associated with me. Like people being able to go to my portfolio and seeing that yes, there's like there's practical, like there's something practical behind me saying experimentation is part of my personal brand. I like
Yeah.
trying new formats. I like pushing myself to try things that may not be super comfortable for me, and that's just because of the nature of my of my job. For someone who doesn't have that forcing function though, I would say with formats it's again experimentation. So if you think you could prefer text, then try text in different formats. So try long LinkedIn posts, try threads on Threads or Blue Sky or Twitter. Try um, doing a newsletter and having that be your main source of like sharing text, or start a blog. Um, if you like video, but you don't feel comfortable on video, just take every idea that you have, open your camera and film, regardless of lighting, background, the aesthetics, how you look that day. The practice of like doing something, it's the same thing with writing. Just having to put pen to paper is enough to build the skill of at
Yeah.
least skill. Sure, you may not be the most talented writer on the planet, but once you've learned the basics, then you can start thinking of things like aesthetics. But all it takes is like practice,
Mhm.
and practice when you've decided that. So how I choose to do things is that no one outside of me can force me to do something. Like I'm not motivated by external forces. I have
Yeah.
one to say I want to do, and I know that it's not the same for most people. So my advice is coming from that's just important context. My advice is coming from the fact that nobody can make me do something that I don't want to do, or at least I will not do it happily. I will be miserable, and you will know that I'm miserable throughout. I'll let you know. So being that way means that once I decide that this is how I want to approach something, I pretty much just stick with it. I may not be the most consistent. So with video, even now, I wanted to say it took me a long time, but I haven't even gotten to any level of consistency because for me, video is so uncomfortable. But I've decided that I'm going to figure video out for myself. So my setup, what I want to be talking about, how I want to be like framing the aesthetics of it. I've decided that I want to learn how to do that. And the only way I'm going to learn how to do that is find opportunities to share. So instead of posting text posts, I've decided that everything will be a video, most likely.
That's good.
So like that's how I make myself try out new things. Um, with other formats, if you like talking, a podcast is probably the best. And like you don't even have to do a well-produced podcast. You can I think people forget that like there are no rules once you passed a certain stage in life. Like you're the one that is choosing to put yourself
Yep.
in a situation. Sure, there may be other factors. You need money, but like you aren't starting a podcast because you have not started a podcast.
I
It's
agree.
not, there are no tools. It's not like there's no topic. You're thinking, oh, audience, oh, money, oh, time. But like those things, you can figure them out after you starting.
Yep. I agree.
So,
I agree with you 100% on that because I have a podcast. I think we've done maybe a close to 100 is on faith.
oh
Uh,
wow.
yeah. So that's why like I try to build stuff for other things. So like
Mhm.
podcast for is for the faith community. There's a podcast for Monthly Inspires. There's this video that happens every month.
Mhm.
I try to shoot some short videos on Monthly Inspires. I shoot them in bulk. And I'm kind of person that I always tell the guys whenever they come to shoot, I'm like, I'm only going to do one take. I'm not going to take this. Like, because I get angry when you're trying to pass a message. And then, like you said, Fatima, that's me. If you're talking to me, you hear me say,
Yeah, exactly. And people who don't say are like robots or like
yeah,
you feel
like,
they're presenting to you or they're talking at you,
yeah,
not to you.
exactly. You'd hear
Yeah.
me think of my next statement whenever I'm talking. You hear me take a pause. You'd hear me do those things. So basically, back to the conversation is I do those stuff, and to the point of podcast. I remember when I wanted to start, I just took my laptop, um, and I sent a Zoom link to my friend. We recorded, and we kept recording like that for a while. Now I own three mics, three professional Rode mics. I own, and wait, don't say I've stopped now because at the
Now you
point of
have to do editing.
yeah, because you're like, okay, now I have to professional mics, I have to get someone to edit. I've doubled the problem for myself. Just by, I mean, and yeah, we would figure it out. It's not bad, it's not all bad, but the point that you made is valid because then I didn't care. Just take a laptop like this, have a
Yep.
conversation. I went to Audacity myself, started cleaning stuff,
Yep.
design. So I moved
And
out.
then as once you pay for it, you start paying for it too. And you be like,
Exactly.
I
But I
remember when
started
I was doing this
exactly. I
different
got a
tool.
Rode mic. I got like a desk mic. Good mic. And the Rode mic is in my boot with sound with a sound card. And the point is true. Like and that's why when I want to make videos for like the brands or something, I just take my phone stand on my desk, turn on the lights, and I just record like 12.
Yep.
And it's the guy that helps with editing. I'm like,
Because
whatever
if
you
you
can
don't
make up.
do it like that and you're waiting for a professional camera and perfect lighting, you're never going to do it
I
because
agree.
there'll always be, and you'll always be able to find an excuse. If your excuse is something that can be solved by your phone, if your phone can fix at least 75% of the problem, which is to just start, or like your laptop or your whatever device you have, then and you don't start, then you're the one that is doing yourself. I want to start posting on Instagram, so start posting. I'm
Yeah,
embarrassed. Create a secret account.
exactly. So, I mean, I think for me, because I definitely am not going to do anything this year. I'm mentally shut down.
And the
But part of,
2024 is basically over.
sorry?
2024 is basically over.
Yeah, I'm mentally shut down. Like I'm stressed. But I mean, because I was thinking about this going into next year, and for me, is how do I want to go about this? And again, like I'll just start and just because I think for me, it's the worry was always because I have like two newsletters, one on faith, one on life, general life. So one is for the faith community, one is for general life community, and I write on Medium. So I'm like, okay, do I now start a new one? Because it's already hard enough to write three. So what I'm just going to do is just convert the general life one and just like, and then just find out new formats at which you can do. I think basically for me, for the context of the conversation is people, because I know you have to leave now because you said you have a work.
Mm,
People always ignore the personal in the personal branding. It's like people make it look like business branding.
yes.
I'm so grateful to the woman of fellowship for inviting me about life. And I'm like, I don't, when I go to my friends, I say, guy, we don't believe we invite me to come speak for like, there's a part of me, it's like,
Casualness to
there's
it.
a honest to it that
Yeah.
it's there. Not everyone can be like me, but you have who you are as a person. You have, I mean, genuinely part of the reasons why I kind of because I cringe at LinkedIn a lot, and but part of the reasons why I have my job notification turned off because I'm like it's live. People switch jobs. I don't have to announce that.
Mhm.
So I mean, people say that I miss your opportunity. I'm like no, I don't have the data to prove it.
Yeah,
I don't have the data to prove it, but I don't believe it's that significant that if
it's
you
just
choose,
it's one moment. So
yeah.
like it's this one. Okay, you've gotten a new job. Everything before and after that is what is important. But getting the new job is what people now hyper focus on. They want
Mm.
to share the perfect, and then everybody's like, "Congratulations!" And then what happens after that is you and your job that you have to face.
Yeah, and it's I mean someone like I work with someone that maybe she got I think I can't remember young 30 under 30 in marketing. She's like,
Ah,
I
okay.
need to write his best caption. I thought that if it was me, I would do a video say they have given Agbero like because I would do something that sort of feels
More,
natural to
yeah, to
me.
you. Yeah.
Like I'm not going to come and answer say it's been 15 years because I would tell people I stopped putting into marketing. It wasn't like I had a grand idea of I was going to do this. So any accolades I get, it wasn't part of the journey.
Yeah.
It wasn't a streamlined journey. So if people appreciate me
It
for my work,
wasn't the
it wasn't the goal. The goal is
goal is like an Oscar or a Grammy. Then
yeah.
that's the deal. But like, mm,
mm,
outside of, yeah, it's like,
so that's why most of the time I put more of my charity activities because that one
mm,
has been there for a long time. I put more of what I do with Mortal Inspires, what I write. Those ones have been goals for a long time. My
yeah.
I always tell people I don't have a professional journey. I I don't have a professional I don't have a career path. I don't like, and it's not. I'm not mincing words or trying to make people's career paths seem. No, I'm not doing that. But I've not sat down to say I want to be a marketing director.
Mm,
It's like I don't have the part. So when people are
yeah.
like, I'm like, no. So these things are not like the things that matter to me that people know has been consistent with me are things that I would talk about. Like if I get an award in marketing, hey, I'm grateful for that. But
That's
it's
not
not
most
going to be,
me.
yeah, it's just part of the process of who I am. And I think that's where we miss it a lot of times. Like there's also comparison. Oh, I saw Tammy post like this.
I
I need
always nobody should compare themselves to me because you're picking the wrong person. I really, really cannot do the comparison game. I've
It's
never done it, but like whenever I see people say, "Oh, I wish," I'm like, the circumstances that led me here are so specific
to
that
me.
like it was
Oh,
timing, it was like just where I was in life at that moment that allowed me to do like so. If your life is not following the exact same path as mine,
mm,
take the lessons, oh, but beyond that, if you start saying, "Oh, I want exactly," you'll be there for a
you'll
long
be
time.
there because, and that's the truth. Like,
A
and
long time.
I've said this to wrap up. Like, there is no to me and you, no matter what. Like, we can have the same journey, we can have the same experience, maybe growing up. Oh,
Mm,
we have experience, but what led me to that experience is not what led you to that experience.
I mean,
So
siblings,
exactly, and two
example.
people can never be the same. You might have the same experiences, but what led them? They're like, you can see me now. I was like, oh my god, like my family, I'm a vulnerable person. Like my family, we grew up in such a very weird way. People like my dad left. My mom had to do some of the fighting. So I mean, we're all good now. My brother is doing this. I'm doing amazing. My step is amazing. And people will come and see us maybe one day. I remember the particular day. My brother, I was driving. My brother was driving. My sister came with my mom. And I'm like, oh my god, I wish people would. I said, don't say that. I said, if you know what
What led us to
to,
this point?
to be here, to
We will
like
not be saying that.
you will not be saying that. Wait, because there were times that we didn't have fence that would
Mm,
so down to enter the super my mother just made we have to treat every and I'm like now you see all of this amazing
yeah,
stuff and you're like, oh, I wish my family was like you. No, don't.
don't.
Because
Whatever you're dealing with your family, deal with it. And
yes,
say that.
hey,
I think, especially in Nigeria, where our middle class has basically eroded completely. So like everybody is either really comfortable or at all, not at all. Like there's no in between because you cannot be just kind of comfortable. No, not
yeah,
anymore. There's no more just kind of like you're either very uncomfortable or very comfortable. And I just keep thinking, if someone met me and my family here 5 years ago, it would not be the same story. My brother is in a different, he was not in a different country last year. So like if they met us at that point, nobody would be saying, "Oh, I wish to follow I want to follow what you did," but like you don't know how he got to this point that
I'm
he's
telling you.
you don't know what external circumstances led him to this point. You don't know all the things that magically came together to work for him. So don't wish, work hard and do the things that are in front of you. Follow your own path because timing is such an important part of what makes people
Yeah,
successful that I'm always just like, you
you
can't
cannot
know.
you cannot skim your way around it.
Yeah,
You cannot scam your way around it. Like you
yeah,
cannot
you
scam
can't like there are no shortcuts. Even the people who said that they have shortcuts, they did not
you
take
cannot fake
shortcuts. There
timing.
were no shortcuts.
I think the only thing is that just hope and pray that timing meets you when you are ready.
Exactly.
All.
Pray that the timing will be right. That's what me I always pray about. I always pray that everything, even if I don't have something, I pray that when I do get it, it will be at the right
It's
time.
the right time. Because
Because some things are
I think about it now, like I told you that I wrote about money. I always prayed then that God, I need to make more money. I was like, I'm so grateful. I did not make more money because I was
that time.
horrible. I would be worse than I am off now. Like now I'm at a place where I
You don't
have
know what would happen if you had made that money and then because you made that money, you didn't make a decision that would improve your life even
yeah,
more than making that money. Like you never know.
you never know.
See,
So
you
stop
cannot
fake
know.
this. It's
There's no time machine. There's no all the sci-fi stuff is not real.
not working.
Just hope that what is happening to you, even if it's a very, very bad thing that's happening, is leading you towards something that will work out for the best. That's what you should be praying about, not that somebody's exact life path will come and and be
I'll be your own partner.
Play on
Lord,
your own timeline and
yeah.
your own path and be exactly how your own goes. You know?
But anyways, I know you have to run. Thank you so much. It was fun. It felt like we've met each other before,
Yeah.
but
Oh yeah, it was great. Thank you for having me on.
thank you. Please send me your interior decor person.
Yes, I will. I'll send you. I'll do it now, actually, so
Okay,
that you
thank you
forget.
very much. Thank
Yeah,
you.
this
Have a
was
good.
good.
Yeah, I had fun. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.